Good morning. This is the start of what's going to be podcast 8, and I'm getting ready for my big travels by casting on the Sisu blueberry sweater. I have 10 balls of Let Loppy 0056 shade dye lot 0111. I've got another 5 balls of that with a different dye lot, and it's massively different. So I'm restricted to the size. I would really have liked to knit the 3XL, but I'm actually going to have to knit the XL because that's all I've got for the main colour, 500, and that's going to be tight. And then for my first contrast colour, I'm using the Let Loppy 1415 colourway, which is called Rough Sea, and I'm really pleased with that contrast. And I had been going to use the turquoise next to it, which is scraps left over from an earlier project, and I need 100 grams of this. And I weighed it because I have 2 scrap balls, and I was pretty sure I wouldn't be far off, miles off. That is not even 50 grams. So back to the drawing board. I need to find another colour in my scraps that I have got 100 grams of to make this XL blueberry sweater. So yeah, not a fantastic start to my travel knitting, but not a disaster either. If I'd started knitting this and then not had it, that would indeed have been a disaster. Anyway, so back to the drawing board with this. So I've done nothing I should have done today, except walk the dog, fed the bees, and I'm happy to say 2 hives have survived the winter so far, fingers crossed, giving them some fondant. But I have picked my colours. I've added in that extra turquoise, so instead of it being 2 contrast colours, I've put in 3, and I have prepped 2 sleeves and the body of an XL made by SisuKnitwear.com blueberry sweater. So that's what it's meant to look like with just 2 contrast colours, but I'm going to mix in a 3rd as well because I didn't have enough of the 2 contrast colours to do as pattern. So by mixing in the turquoise, little pop of accent colour, I decided, yes, it's made it a doable project without me having to go shopping to buy some more. So I'm absolutely exhausted because the log fire's been raging all day and the central heating's on, and it's massively too hot in the house. But I'm really pleased because I'm now ready for my knitting travel project. Good to go, as long as I don't forget it. I've done that before now. So I'm ready for my holiday knitting ready. So I couldn't decide what train to get this morning, the 6:41 or the 8 something. Anyway, I got to the 6:41 at 6:43 and it had gone. So I went back home again, turned round, and I'm now ready for the 8 something. I'm not sure what it is, 8:23, and I've got half an hour to wait. Didn't want to risk missing this one or I'll never get there. So here we go. I should get lots of knitting done on the train. So I'm sat in Tampa Airport waiting for the plane to get home. I had a fabulous time in Florida. I have no words. Sunshine and a beautiful house. And I'm sitting knitting one of the sleeves of my blueberry sweater, knitting white, size medium. I think I've got about 6 more rows to do of the second sleeve, and then I've got a big chunk of back to do, which I've saved specially for the plane. So yeah, soon be back in jolly old Wales, ready to get back in my lambing shed. Hello. It's actually not pouring down, so I thought I would show you the blueberry XL, which I knit to size with no modifications. It fits my son, who normally in anything Alaphos Loppy would be an XXL, possibly even a double XL. This is a large size, oversized sweater. It fits him beautifully. I've taken one picture of him, but he's pulling a funny face. So the only modification I did was I grafted the armpits because I just like the grafted armpit finish. You wouldn't know where the stitches started and ended, and they want you to do a mattress stitch. And the other thing I did was, it's a 2 colour pattern. I didn't have enough of the 2 colours, so I added in a 3rd colour, a little bit of turquoise. And I'm really, really pleased with how this has worked out. unusually for me, I've blocked it. I'm really proud to have blocked it. He's tried it on. It fits him beautifully. I honestly didn't think it would fit him. I was expecting to have to find another recipient. He was very funny. He had a lot to say about the itch factor. So, but he'll never wear this against his skin. This will be his 3rd or his 4th layer. It's quite an interesting pattern. You cast on and then you do every however many rows on each side 2 deductions. So it's like an A shape. And I actually do like it. I like the fact the way it fits him. And I just think, yeah, it's a nice pattern. There are very, very few instructions with this pattern. It's not a beginner pattern at all. On line 20 of the chart, on the line 19, you do some deductions right at the end of line 19, and then they draw the do not knit line on the first line of line 20. So it pushes the whole pattern, the whole chart over 1 stitch, which I did 2 or 3 rows of that and then realised and thought, I just can't cope with this. So I had to pull it back and start again, because there's no point having a beautiful pattern that is off centre and doesn't work. Sorry, it's not working because I've got this production assistant who hasn't seen me for a bit because I've been away, and then I've been in the lambing shed, so she's very overexcited. We've just had a walk. I thought she'd be calm. Speaking of lambing, it's very interesting out in my shed. I've currently got 20 pack lambs on a machine. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this off and I'll take you out to the machine and show you what I'm talking about. Anyway, that was the Sisu Blueberry extra large sweater. Thrilled to bits with it. It's exactly what it says on the tin. Not a beginner pattern, but it's knit exactly to size. I got exact gauge and I knit it in Let Loppy. It did use slightly more of the main wool than the pattern said. So I omitted 3 rows altogether of the yoke, and I had about 4 grams left. So it was real yarn chicken. But anyway, it worked and it's fit Simmons, so that's fine. Okay, I'll turn this off and we'll go and have a look at my sheep. What a difference a few hours make. This morning at 4, every single one of these pens was full, and we've had glorious sunshine. So the farm bike has been used, and my son and a mate have spent the whole day turning out. So this new shed has now got only 2 pens with problem using lambs in who just need a little more time. And this is what we call the new shed, and this is the overflow. And in here is our, obviously, Eddie's gator and our Super Duper Milkmaid 2000, which we bought second hand to feed these babies. So these are triplets who I have to sit with individually and train each one to learn to suck the red teat. Now, a few of them have already got it, but most haven't, and it takes about 3 hours of feed to get them all plugged on, but it is so much better than manually feeding them all with a bottle. So yeah, they're all numbered, so I don't miss any out, and that's a lovely sight. I thought for a minute number 11 was going to have a go. Right, I shall take you to see the other shed and show you what's going on in there. So here we are in the real sheep shed. That one's just the overflow, and these are all still waiting to lamb. Now, the speed at which these have been lambing will, I hope, mean that in the next few days we can move the sheep from the new shed into here. So I'm only looking for ewes lambing in one shed, and that will make it incredibly easier. But a lot of lambs today. I think 30 or 40 have lambed. Fingers crossed, cross everything. We haven't lost a lamb today. No, depends. Sadly, my usual way of losing lambs is you find them in the morning on a cold night and the mother has sat on them. She's been so keen to keep them nice and snuggly and warm that she's actually suffocated them, and that is a really heartbreaking loss. So nothing is lambing in these pens, and of course I go up one side and down the other. It takes some time, and you have to kind of live with them because they do things when your back's turned. You go for a cup of tea and you come out and there's mayhem, and you can be here all day and miss that 1 minute when you need it. So there we go. Everything is Now she's having a little scratch. She might be up to something. Or just settling down. What are you doing there, sweetie? Sometimes they very politely turn round to give me a view of the business end. No, she's good. These are the yearlings lambing for the first time. These are the ones that usually lamb toward the end of lambing. But we've had quite a few out of here already. And again, we've been very, very lucky. Look at all these lovely empty pens. It is a joy. Oh my God. This morning I ran out of pens. Every pen was full. And when there was a triplet lambing, I had nowhere to put her. So at that point I woke Anthony up from his 4-hour nightly nap and advised him it was time he had breakfast and came out to play. So there we go. Every shepherd in Wales, probably all the shepherds in Cumbria and Yorkshire, we're all doing the same thing. And it always makes me laugh that this is community, we don't know each other, but we're all absolutely doing the same thing. And it is so nice when you're doing a lambing like we've got this season, where crossing everything, every finger crossed, we haven't got a savage disease in the shed. 2 years ago we had Schmallenberg. Google it, really nasty disease. It's carried by midges. Nothing you can do, it just comes when it comes. Oh, look at these empty pens. We're going to go into the night, ready for a busy night with room. Because once they lamb, we open these interior gates and put them in their individual pen and give them some time with their own babies. This is a pen of triplets. Everything in here's got 3 in it. So they get fed. We feed them according to the litter that they're carrying. The triplets, the twins and the singles. The old girls get a little bit more. Anything that's body condition is not quite up to where we'd like it to be gets a bit more, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is my shed today. I can't believe it. I'm going to try and post this podcast if I possibly can today, because I'm aware that the days are running away with me in March, and I have a lot of acquisitions to talk about. I've been so naughty. I've been buying from Vinted, and then I was buying in a most fantastic shop in America. I have never in my life been in a wool shop that good before, called Creativity in Largo in Florida. And a friend got his card out and paid for me, which was just lovely. So that's free. So far in 2026, I've spent £84 sterling on yarn. Didn't need any of it, but there we are. I've got a long line of a queue of delights I'm dying to knit, and I've realised that my knitting is going to slow down dramatically for the next 6 weeks. I've also signed up for a secret test knit for Lena magazine, which I'm looking forward to, but it's only a hat, so it shouldn't be too much. Right, I'm going to get back to feeding my babies and starting another 3-hour round of feeding the babies. Speak to you all soon. So I really must apologise. I am having serious issues with Canva. I had intended to insert my work in progresses and my acquisitions before this final video of the beautiful Creativity shop in Largo, Florida. However, Canva will just not allow me to do that. So instead I've inserted the work in progresses and the acquisitions at the end. The acquisitions is really quite funny. I've got just over 100,000 yards of yarn, and I've got over 500 skeins. I've recorded it so many times, I've forgotten all the things I was going to say about my massive yarn stash, how I'm not trying to de-stash, but even I can see it's a little bit beyond my life expectancy. But however, I'm loving it. I'm loving the potential of all the projects. I'm loving the design planning. I've never had so much wool in my life. And I'm looking forward to trying different combinations to make different projects. Coming back to the shop that you can see now, I don't think I've ever been in such a beautiful wool shop in my life. There was the full range of acrylics, pure wool, wool blends, hand-dyed, pretty much every designer make I've ever heard of. And then there was Rowan, Sirdar, beautiful books. There were a number of items which were high-value items reduced by 50%, but they have a massive sale that was going to start the day after I returned home. However, when I was chatting to the lovely ladies, there was 3 ladies there who were knitting, just as a random knit group of buddies. They told me that the window ledge behind them, which had the mountain of sock wool, everything on there was reduced by 50%. So I couldn't resist. I spent ages browsing, and I decided I would only buy things I could not buy at home. So I spent probably an hour there trying to think what shawls I'd like to make and what socks I'd like to make. And I really had the most fantastic couple of hours. Lovely, lovely time. I mean, the Largo beaches are fabulous, but the wool shop is a good match for the beach. So I'll leave this here now. I do apologise once again that you're going to get the work in progresses and the acquisitions at the very end. If you've managed to watch this far, if you can bear my chaos, if you'd please like and subscribe, I'd be very grateful, because I've got nearly no people subscribed. So we need the more the merrier. I'm only doing this as a hobby because I enjoy watching other people's podcasts, but it'd be nice if more than my sisters and my aunties watched. Okay, so thank you very much once again. Bye for now. Smooshy cashmere. I have been lucky enough to get some of this on eBay in the UK, and I've absolutely loved it. The nicest, softest socks I've ever knitted. I can feel a spending spree coming on. Malabrigo. Huge stock of Malabrigo.
Everything is good. I think I had a bit of a conversation with the owner guy. He's such a nice man. Everything is good. I think we're paid up. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I have to call the, I have to really do this a bit for her. So when she gets back, I'm gonna talk to her about, the features that he gave us and see about having them colors.
I was living in Tucson and we had an earthquake there. You would think that would be safe, but that wasn't much.
Good morning, everybody. Shall we do some work in progresses and then maybe some acquisitions? I've had a lot of problems with making this video with Canva not allowing various things I've filmed. I really don't know why. So everything's going to be a little bit muddled if I manage to get it edited at all and get it put up. But anyway, here goes. Work in progresses. It's now the middle of March. I'm about a week late putting this podcast up, later than I would have liked. My first work in progress is my lovely tweedy child sweater. I've done exactly nothing on this since I last showed it you, so I won't talk about that. Nothing much to say. Then I have a pair of vanilla socks. I've done one. It's, of course, West Yorkshire Spinner sock wool with Lana Grossa sock wool for the cuff, heel and toe. And this is a man's medium and it'll go in the Christmas box. It's the 64 stitch cast on, about 60 rows for leg, and I think it's about 45 rows for the foot. Should fit my boy's size 10 feet, I hope. So I've done one. I've just cast on the second toe. Bit of a story to this. I started knitting the cuff and I was knitting it in Florida in bright sunshine, sat on the beach actually, my only day on the beach, and I didn't realise till I got to there and was about to do the heel that I dropped a stitch. Couldn't bring myself to pull it out, so I actually worked it all the way back up. And I'm hoping, I know where it is, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to block out the slight difference in tension from where I've pulled it back up. But certainly my boys won't care. They'll probably put the foot through it within a few days wearing it. They're a bit hard on socks, my lads. They wear them like slippers around the house, which is absolutely fine. And then the work in progress that you saw me knitting at Tampa Airport was this. It is my Sisu Blueberry medium, and I'm knitting it in white because I had lots of white in stash. And then the two colours, I've just stayed with two colours this time, is the Fjord Blue and the Celery Heather, and I really like it. I like the way the colours work. I'm on about line 20 of the yoke, and I'm knitting it exactly to pattern. I've not made any adjustments to the size, except that I made a mistake at the very beginning. I missed 2 rows of rib out. There should be 4 rows of the celery and I only did 2. I went 2, 2 and 2, and I should have gone 2, 4 and 2, and I just thought I'll live with that. I'd already done all of that, and so I just did the sleeves to match. So yeah, that's a ID 10T error. Idiot, basically. So that's my work in progresses. Shall we have a look at my acquisitions? Are you ready for this? So I've acquired acquisitions from 3 sources. One is not really an acquisition. It's just that I forgot to include it in my total when I was doing my yarn stash calculation. And it's a great big juicy bag of Let Lopi scraps, which I was storing in America, in the Florida house that I go and visit. So I've now added that in, and the same goes for West Yorkshire Spinner yarn. I forgot I had it, and 2 balls of Lana Grossa, one of which you've just seen. Then just before I went away, I couldn't resist it. Oh, that's the Lana Grossa that you've just seen. So just before I went away, these were £4 on Vinted, and they are Shachmeyer Regia, my first Regia, really cute 25 gram balls of baby sock wool. And it makes me laugh because I paid £7 or £8 for these with the postage, and the lady who was selling them bought them for £1 in the bargain bin of her wool shop. So she did very nicely out of it. She's managed to make a profit. But I've never knit with that before, and I've got so many people having babies. It's nice to recycle it and have it used rather than lying in somebody's stash unloved. Then while I was on Vinted, I did get a little bit carried away, and I spent altogether, including that, £84 on Vinted, and I bought myself an enormous haul. So, sorry for the crinkling. 10 balls of mohair, definitely from China, not a problem. I'm going to use it with my China unspun. 5 balls, same sauce, same quality, Chinese. Then I've always fancied knitting with cashmere, never been able to afford it. On principle, I refuse to buy from Temu, but this is, I would imagine, where this has actually come from. But it always worries me, the thought of children being used to produce things. But anyway, I've no idea. This all came as one batch from one seller. But this is Lyricinly cashmere. It does feel beautifully soft. It's 95% cashmere and 5% acrylic. And I got 16 balls of beige. And I got 16 balls of grey. And they're all, the grey and the beige are all the same dye lot. Now, I really don't know. My plan is to hold it with my unspun, but I honestly do not know how that will work, what kind of gauge I'll get, whether I'll like the fabric. I may end up holding it double and knitting something just in that together. It's going to be an adventure, which is why I bought it. So that worked out at £1.80 a skein, so it's incredibly cheap. Morally, does it bother me? Am I buying wool from a sustainable source? Probably not. But anyway, somebody had already bought it, probably for a lot less than I paid for it. Because when you see these things on these websites, they're often 10 pence a ball. But I think, do you know what? I'm having my adventure. And I think there's probably the only way to look on it. Then you will see that I went to this amazing wool store called Creativity in Largo. And they had this great big, the back of the store, there was a great big flat window ledger, like a bay window, just covered, absolutely covered in stacks and stacks of yarn. And I decided I wasn't going to buy anything that I could buy in the UK, that I've seen anyway. So here we go. These are two 200-gram balls of 800 metres each. So there's 600 metres here. And it is 55% merino extra fine wool, 30% alpaca and 15% silk. And it feels like butter. It is absolutely gorgeous. 2.5 to 3 millimetre needles is recommended, so fingering weight. I'd love to knit the Sunday shawl. I'd also love to knit you can see the iodine on my fingers. Been out since 1:30 this morning, and I've had a lot of lambs coming, and I normally wear marigolds, but I had a few difficult lambing, and I decided that the marigolds were now a cause of infection, so I finished the morning off with just my hands. Right, so anyway, I'd love to knit Stephen West shawl, but I'm not sure of the pattern. I've knit lots of his boneyard shawls, and this would work. And it's a nice vanilla knit, but I fancy doing something with a bit of texture or some eyelets. So maybe that Ray shawl, is it Ray? Where he's got the holes, the eyelets in it. Anyway, not sure what I'm doing. It'll be a shawl for definite. Really excited about that. I don't knit enough shawls. This I have never seen before, but I'm sure you all have. Regia Perfect. And the ladies who were knitting in the group, I said, that's funny, it's got this bit of yellow wool on the top. And they explained that the yellow wool marks the start of the pattern. So there's a pair of socks in here, and halfway through there'll be another big strand of yellow. And you start your sock at the end of the yellow, and then you get 2 perfectly matching socks. So I've got enough here for 2 pairs of 2 perfectly matching socks. I just thought it was whimsical and such fun and half price. I mean, £8 a ball, and I can't wait to cast it on. I'm really looking forward to it. And I then bought, just because I've never seen it before and I've never knit with it, Queensland Collection Perth Australian Superwash. And it's a wool blend, 100 grams, 400 metres, and it's super fine sock wool basically, 2.25 to 3.25 metres. 2 matching skeins, so I do have the option of holding them double to knit a nice cable 3.5mm sock. I'm madly in love at the moment with the Munster and the Connaught socks. In my finished objects, I forgot to show you, I've knit another 3 pairs of Connaught socks. I love that pattern. I've really enjoyed it, but they're just the same as all the others, so you've not really missed anything. Yeah, so that is my acquisitions from 3 separate sources. One, just because I'm an idiot. One, because I'm an outrageous, compulsive spender on Vinted. And one that was just a complete and utter holiday treat. And I have loved it. But the upshot of that is I've done some calculations. I now have over 500 skeins of wool. And that isn't skeins at 25 or 50 grams. That is skeins at 100 grams, most of them. Ooh. And I've also got just a few metres short of 100,000 metres, probably on 100,000 yards. But yeah, 100,000 yards of wool is going to take some knitting. I think it works out at about 53 miles. So I'd better not go off my knitting fad. And yeah, it's quite difficult. I'm finding with lambing, it's really interfering with my knitting speed and process. I seem to spend a lot of time being distracted from my knitting. But lambing doesn't last forever. So I can feel a summer of experimental knitting. I don't want to get too much more yarn. And I feel a bit sad actually, because I was all excited by going to Wonderwool Wales and looking forward to buying some really fantastic Nellie and Eve wool. I mean, that wool is produced only about 5 miles from me and I've never knit with it. My local wool shop, Bumblebee, stocks it, but it is so expensive, and I'm sure it's beautiful and is absolutely worth the price, but it just is a big investment for something which I may very well felt when I block it. If I'm not careful, I can felt things. Anyway, so thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. I'm sorry it's very bitty and all over the place, but as I say, I've had awful trouble with my software. I'm hoping to get this loaded up today. And then at the end of March, I hope I'll have finished at least that medium blueberry sweater, and I'll do a stash update on the end of March totals. So thank you very much for watching.